This is Greg Troutline with Maritime Reporter TV. We're very pleased to be joined again by Peter Sand, the Chief Analyst of Xeneta, to discuss drivers for the global container shipping market in the coming few weeks. Peter, it's always great to see you. We have a lot of meaty topics, so I'll just dive right in. Let's start with some recent news coming from Panama, specifically the PCA's postponement of the tighter draft restrictions for the Neo-Panamax locks. How is this impacting container shipping overall as you see it?
Thanks for having me back, Greg. Speaking about the Panama Canal these days is much more exciting than it was only a few months back. But with draft restrictions now tightening from the usual 50 feet down to 44.5, it's much changed in the sense that what can be brought through the not only the new Panamax locks, but also, of course, some of the old locks with those draft restrictions. It affects naturally the transportation not only of containerized goods, but of say LNG also transported perhaps the other direction, dry and wet bulk, of course, also. But for container shipping, and those shippers that have supply chains working through the Panama Canal, they should, of course, be aware that this is now a time for carriers to up their surcharges and to add, say, different layers of cost items to what would otherwise be plain vanilla freight rates. So watch out for those heavy load surcharges, those low tide surcharges. Pretty girl has many names, and surcharges is definitely the wonderful stepchild of every carrier. So it's the one thing that we keep a very close eye on right now, because it's not only Far East to US East Coast which is affected. There's also a trade lane from North Europe into to South America West Coast, for instance. Those trades that rely massively on not only the new Panamax locks, but just on the canal transit. So
there is a growing spread for spot freight rates between South America's East Coast main and secondary ports. Simply put, why is this?
When carriers are optimizing their networks, they are constantly also cascading bigger ships, or as big ship as possible, into any trade. And while doing so, of course, they also adjust the port calls that they do wherever in the whole world. So on a trade like the Far East into South America East Coast, we definitely see an opening spread between what we at Xeneta call the main ports and the sub ports, the secondary ports that still many carriers serve, but when they apply bigger ships, they also tend to put more cargo through the main hubs. So we literally see now spread opening up from the usual $300 all the way up to more than $1,000 on some of those port pairs. So as a shipper, naturally, you should consider if you can change your perhaps a little bit of your hinterland supply chain logistics into to those bigger hubs, because there are money to be made if you know which ports to choose and which ports to shy away from with that spread. And to some extent also we see same pattern, but then again always different pattern on the South America West Coast, with also some spread between the bigger ports and the smaller ports, favoring the bigger ports with also shippers offered low spot market rates.
Obviously, the COVID pandemic is now officially over, but the hangover continues for the container shipping sector, with sharp declines in container shipping fleet speed since last August, and the transatlantic spot rate sitting at a 14-month low. Do you see any sign of recovery?
Actually, if I look at the speed of the fleet right now, there is a little bit of early days for the recovery, at least if judged by that. It seems as if the speed of the global fleet for container ships bottomed out at the end of March. So it may not be more than a green shot of recovery, but a very, very thin ice that we're skating on right now. But there are more and more signs that markets are normalizing, the transatlantic being one, where carriers are still not necessarily blanking much sailings. They are not taking out capacity, and that's why we now see spot rates at 14-month low. We still see long-term contract rates being up 100% on the pre-pandemic levels. So there's some room still for improvement when shippers and carriers meet in the negotiation room for those service contracts on the transatlantic front haul. But I think for a trade that have defied general gravity for longer than anyone, it's just about to call it a day for spot rates also to be higher than normally on the transatlantic front haul.
Okay, Peter, excellent insight as always. We appreciate your time and we look forward to talking to you again next month.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Greg. Take care.